Hey everyone, I'm super excited to be here today, opening this event with an extraordinary keynote panel. We hope this will get you excited for the truly fantastic lineup of talks we have for you throughout the day. So let's get started. What is all the AI SRE hype in 2026? The SRE practice has been refined over many, many years from real and painful failures, real outages and incidents with real consequences for businesses. Pretty much everything we rely on today, incident response, the metrics, SLOs, SLAs, SLIs, playbooks, escalation paths, were shaped under this kind of pressure. But now the plot thickens. AI is entering that same environment with lofty claims that it can reason about systems, investigate incidents, and even take action. And this is where things get interesting. Because production systems are not clean, and as Corey Quinn, who will be joining us later today, says, it's almost always duct tape and dumpster fires. They're messy, have a hodgepodge of stateful and other services, full of edge cases, partial failures, and tribal knowledge that never made it into documentation. So today we're bringing together some of the smartest folks in our industry who have been in the trenches of SRE production systems since before the cloud, really. Charity Majors, having built the systems at Meta when it was still called Facebook, and channeled all of that expertise into building one of the most disruptive observability tools available today, Honeycomb. Stefano Muller, leading global infrastructure operations at Salesforce, and with a wealth of experience across large-scale production enterprise systems. ETL Schwartz, who started his way at eBay and then Forder, and having built Commodore from the ground up, the first of its kind platform for Kubernetes and AI SRE operations. So today they're going to answer hard questions about what's happening in the AI when you bring AI and SRE together and what that looks like for real production systems. So without further ado, I'm going to allow each one of them to introduce themselves, a quick round of introductions, and also to share a little bit about what they've been tinkering with themselves with AI in their real systems and where it's getting interested in, and what they think you should be noticing. So, Charity, take it away.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I love that quote from Corey about duct tape. Something I've been seeing a lot lately is that all of our systems have evolved to accept and tolerate a certain rate of change, held together with duct tape and stupid human tricks. Uh, and as that rate of change is increasing, all the duct tape is flying off the bus. And if your wisdom is not encoded into the system, it doesn't exist, which just makes it a really exciting time, I think, because, as SREs, I feel like we've always had these, we should be building, progressive deployments. We should be building, feature flags. We should have high cardinality, high dimensionality, all these things. But it's always felt like a trade off between speed and resilience. And now you don't get that speed unless you have that resilience. And so I think it's a really exciting time to be alive. Thanks for the great introduction. I don't know what I can add to that, but I'll just say that I'm a huge Kindle user. I've been tinkering a lot using agentic development for Calibri plugins,
That's cool.
and um, and I have hopes to automate my social media life more because I can't. It's too much. It's too
Yes.
fast. There's too many. I can't do it. I need help.
I want somebody to create a WhatsApp bot that gives me a TLDR of all of my groups at the end of every day. That's it.
Open
That's what
Claude does this now. You can interact with WhatsApp with with an Open Claude thing. It's super dope.
All right. ETL, go
Of
for it.
course. So yeah, ETL Schwartz, I'm like the co-founder and CTO of Commodore. I've done like reliability without the AI for the last, I don't know, like 15 years, something like that. A huge Kubernetes fan as well, and I founded like Commodore in order to help people like solve issues and problems faster and better. When it comes to Kubernetes, for like the last 2 years, a bit more, I jumped on the AI wagon, like something that started as a very small side project and then became bigger and bigger as time progressed. I don't tinker with too much things outside of the work stuff as I'm CTO and just tinkering with a lot of things on the company time basically. And I think that everyone said, we live in a super interesting times. I think the most interesting shift that is happening right now in the industry is that right now, most of the code and most of the infra that we run was written by human. I think over the next upcoming 2, 3 years, this is going to change. So a bit like the amount of clarity and reason that we have around how does our system operate right now is in its max, and I think it's only going to decline as AI is going to write more and more of both the application and the infrastructure layer. So interesting times. Yeah.
Stefana, take it away.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here with this group. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Hi, I'm Stefana Muller. I run infrastructure and operations at Salesforce. I actually run it for a specific business unit that isn't yet in the full trust platform for Salesforce because we were acquired. So we're in a stressful situation to try to get our infrastructure up to speed to the Salesforce model. One thing that I will say that as you all probably have a little bit of side projects, I have a few side projects. They're all doing the things that I would love them to do in my personal life. I'm trying to get them to get AI to wash the clothes in the house. That has not happened yet. It's almost there. No, teasing aside, what I am focused on a lot of the time now versus like even 3 months ago is figuring out how to start my teams at Salesforce with a pair programming model with AI instead of it just being a question and answer, getting them more comfortable, especially the senior engineers, right? Getting them more comfortable with pair programming model where it's AI first, removing the barriers to entry of figuring out how many tokens you're using and such. So that's what we're working on. We're actually working on some observability tools for token usage, figuring out how we're using tokens, how many we should shift towards, if we're using different models, how that consumption happens. It's really an interesting time, very different than what I was doing 6 months ago. So I'm looking forward to this talk.
Amazing. Wow. So a lot of interesting points made there. So I'm going to bring us back to, I guess, the topic at hand and frame kind of the discussion. We are here to talk about the AI SRE domain and how like AI is kind of, coming into the more traditional domains of SRE, DevOps, platform engineering, the things that we're familiar with. So let's talk a little bit about production systems. And we all know that they're a serious business. Running high scale systems brought us many practices in this domain, from production engineering, reliability engineering, aka SRE, chaos engineering. And obviously, AI has a lot of tremendous potential, but with great power, of course, comes equally epic mistakes sometimes. So, where do you guys see AI bringing the most value immediately or in the near future? And what do we still need to be really careful about? And what's more like wishful thinking? And you take it, Stefano, because you wrapped up the previous round.
Sure. So immediate value, I talk to customers about this as well because some of them are very nervous about bringing AI into the spectrum. One thing that I've noticed in the SRE space is simple stuff that took us so long to do, like auto generating postmortems, doing some root cause analysis and kind of helping us troubleshoot towards root cause, summarizing long Slack incident threads. But seriously, I know that that may be ridiculous, but it's the simple stuff that actually is, toil reduction that we couldn't actually reduce without the AI augmenting us. So, sanity checking documentation, auto generating that documentation as we're coding, so that folks don't actually have to think about documents. This is interesting because in the past, we didn't have documentation, we had all that tribal knowledge, and now it's almost second nature, or rather it's not even a thought in the process. Documentation automatically happens as they're coding, and our team is using Claude most of the time, and that's, it's already got a structure. We set up structure for how that documentation should show up. So that's immediate value that I'm seeing right now, and there's so much more. I could tell you, we're taking stuff from Python to Java in days versus months. So there's a lot of big value that's happening. I think on the side of wishful thinking, fully autonomous remediation isn't there yet. I think that AI can help self heal and create those environments for self healing. I haven't seen that yet, and I've seen mistakes happen in that process without the guardrails in place. So I think a key thing is, yeah, immediate value. Some of those low hanging fruit are already happening in many companies, but the that full autonomous thing that everyone is afraid about isn't here yet. I also think that it's because we do need that human in the loop to put that clarity and the context into the AI. That is something that we're all learning to do right now as we're working.
Very interesting. I feel like ETL has a lot to comment on there as, they're building towards that kind of a goal. So maybe tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about what you've been seeing ETL from, yeah, like how you've
Uh,
where you've been experiencing the value and why what you think is truly possible and not wishful thinking.
yeah, I think the main value, and like I'll split it into two. The main value that I see is going like 0 to 1, right? Like having some, I'm not sure if one is the right number, but 0 to 1.8, I think, is a more accurate way of talking about it. Because now we're in the stage where I have some very cool idea for a system, for a design, for a new capability, for fixing a bug. I just talk with Cloud Code or like Cursor, and all of a sudden I have something that is kind of working. So I think it took all of those boilerplate first steps, like, and made them like almost like zero time and zero money. So I think for us in Commodore, or for most companies, I think like that's the biggest place where we see the value. With that, obviously, comes a price, right? Like the quality is not what you expected. It's not that scalable. It's not that secure, and so on and so on. So it also comes with a lot of prices to pay. When it comes to the other side of the equation, I think that for Commodore, AI allowed us to go much more towards that step of auto healing and like self remediation. I think that AI is very good if you direct it into a narrow enough scope and domain to do quite good things. So what we're doing in Commodore is not trying to solve like self-healing in general. How can my system be self-healing? But we're trying to focus on specific domains, for example, Kubernetes, and inside Kubernetes for specific failures, and to automate those. And I think that once you go narrow enough, once you go down that rabbit hole, it is possible to achieve that self-healing, at least in certain scopes. And luckily for us, it's like 80-20 rules. Like most of the things that developers escalate towards their DevOps or towards their platform engineers is not that complicated. It's like you should have read the Jenkins logs, or you should just rerun this GitHub action, right? Like that's pretty much it. And like 80% of the problems in the world could be automated. So I think like it's a super interesting topic, and it requires us to do like the opposite of what is very easy to do with AI. Like I said, it's very easy to go zero to like something with AI. It's very, very, very hard and tedious and requires quite a lot of like very smart people working together in order to make it to this jump from it kind of work to it works perfectly every time.
That's a good, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Charity, what are your thoughts?
At any company that's doing anything interesting in production, there remains to this day this characteristic of there are a couple engineers who, if the shit hits the fan, everybody, it might take on average 45 minutes, an hour or so to resolve it, unless one of those couple engineers joins, and then it takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And what's exciting to me is that given the technology as it exists today, we can encode that knowledge into the system in a way that AI can reason about it such that it brings down that default for everyone, right? It takes 10 to 15 minutes for everyone to resolve those gnarly incidents because nobody has to know exactly where to look. Nobody has to, have that sort of like the glue, the intuition, the stuff in their heads in order to find, like, because AI is so fast, just like scanning all the options. If you have instrumented all that stuff, AI is only as good as the data it's trained on. And this is an area where I feel like, I don't know if y'all have read Kyle Forster from, I think, CEO of Runwin, wrote a blog post a couple months ago about how 70% of the time agents refuse to look at 3 pillars data. They and he didn't tell his agents to do this. They go out seeking richer sources of truth. They're like, this metrics, logs, and traces. What the hell is this? It's not good data. So they go seeking out richer data. So a lot of this is like, is it new? It's really first principles, but it's like first principles are more important than ever at like 100x speed. So I think that there are so many interests. You ask what's useful now, what's on the horizon. What's useful now is code your knowledge into the system. Like AI is really good at doing stuff that we've already done before, right? Which, to your point, is most of the things we do. We've already done them, right? It's not good at breaking new ground, at genuinely, creatively solving new problems. Where I hope that we're not talking like 2027, 2028, we're talking like later 2026. My hope is that agents in production, Boris Tain is working on something that I have really high hopes for. Agents in production could do the tedious parts of checking up on our diffs after we submit them and after they get deployed. So like I would argue that 20 years of DevOps was really about one thing, which it failed to do, which was create a single feedback loop between developers and their code in production. We're still using infrastructure tools to try and understand our code in production, which means that most developers never look at their code in production. Some places they aren't allowed to look at their code in production, which is the split vein problem of developers over here and production operations over there is not helping anyone. But like, if we can use the tools we have to knit that feedback loop back into place, and then use agents to, you deploy it, you deploy a diff, like you shouldn't have to go find a dashboard or craft a dashboard to check. That's why nobody does it. It's hard. You have to switch tools, switch flows. But if it can like show up in your development environment, go, ooh, that thing that you deployed to a canary a couple hours ago, I'm seeing 20% higher latency. Maybe you could look at that, or oh, you just deployed a cache change. I'm going to check up on it once a day for the next 6 months and let you know. Like, because production is, I know I've been rambling for a long time. Production is such a noisy place that if you just look at production, you can only find problems that are big enough to threaten the entire health of the system. Or it's so noisy that you can't tell which fluctuations have meaning and which don't. But if you can tie it back to developer intent and validate that developer intent, you have the ability to find very small needles in a very large production haystack.
That's super interesting. No, I tend to agree with that, and feel free to, ramble on. It's all very interesting stuff. I guess, like, because of the name of this talk, I'll ask the most loaded question there is, which is from hype to reality is what this panel is actually called. So I guess if that's the question, where do you believe realistically we're at in the AI for SRE, DevOps, platform engineering hype cycle? Beginning, middle? Have we not seen anything yet? Is this like I'm just wondering where you think we're at in the grand scheme of things. Go for it, Stefana.
I actually feel like we're just cutting through the surface here. There's so much more potential, and every day with new models that are coming out, with new tools that are coming out, with the engineers learning how to use AI effectively, we are blasting through this surface. I really feel like there's so much more that can be done here. We talk about it a lot within my team of blockers that we have, and most of those blockers are trust related blockers. We don't want to remove the guardrails and affect a customer, right? Affect customer data. That's we have petabytes of customer data. We do not want that coming out in any way, right? We don't want the AI having any access to our databases. So we still have those restrictions around us that I'm hoping, the hype, that's kind of part of the hype. People are thinking AI is running the world, and it isn't yet there because it's not yet safe. And I feel like the humans need to feel the safety before we kind of open up the full
And they
gamut
shouldn't
of what
feel
can
it
happen.
before it exists, please.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's not pretend that it exists, right? I want to pull it back to the things that are. You had said it, Charity. That is really kind of cool. Of how long it took us to figure out how to build a dashboard for some feature? We're not doing that anymore, right? That's a key thing. That's the reality. We are not doing that. Instead, I have a Claude skill that builds dashboards based on the code you implemented every time, and you don't have to think. So I think it's removing the I have to think like production from the engineer's mind. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Because they don't have to think that AI is thinking for them. So I think we have a positive there. And I see your face there, Charity. You're like, yeah, there's a positive there because it reduces the toil they have to go through. However,
Yeah.
there is a negative. We're trusting the AI to do all of that work for us without
I'd
context.
rather cast
Right?
it as you do need to think about, is this what I need to see? Is this the right data?
True.
But like the crafting of dashboards itself was like that was not time well spent by anyone.
We are sitting in Grafana. We're moving from our old system that at our to Grafana, and having everybody learn how to build Grafana dashboards
Well,
is
and
useless
to your
time,
point
right?
about that, I have many rants about dashboards in my past life. I try not to shit talk about people's technology in the work, but every dashboard was in some way a thought terminating cliche. You didn't think about what you couldn't see, and you saw the same thing every time, and
Of
usually the
course.
things that were a problem were the things you couldn't see.
Are the incidents on the dashboard, Charity? No, they're not. The incidents
No!
happen, and we're now discovering that we needed a dashboard for that
Yes!
thing, right?
That's true.
Every incident, ended in, "Okay, what dashboard are we gonna make so that we don't find so that we can find it
What
immediately the
monitor
next
do
time
we
we
need to
do."
implement
That is
now?
exactly.
Totally
All
feel
right,
that.
that was great. If you have anything to add to that, ETL, go for it, or we'll go on to the
Yeah,
next.
I think that she hit it with the nail like in the head. Like in the end, I think we're just in the beginning of the AI revolution. I think we are trying to understand a lot of the time, like you said, like how can I build like better skills to make myself more efficient. I think the revolution will end where a lot of what we do will actually be automated. So I think it's going to go more and more toward that. I think it started where with, I have a problem and I go and I ask Claude, hey, how can I fix it? And then it happened so many times. I created a skill. And then I will take this skill and say, oh, like it's such a great skill. Why won't I turn it into an agent or something like that? And I think that most companies are just in the beginning of I'm talking with Claude, and like the more advanced ones are very strong ICs are using skills more and more. But I think there's a very long way of walking basically until we'll reach that like utopia, which will obviously like new problems and new issues will emerge as we do that. But I think we are just like starting to do the interesting stuff, basically.
Interesting. Any other thoughts, Charity, or
I have many thoughts, but I will try to keep it short. You know, have you guys ever read about when electricity was invented and brought to shop floors? Like in the pre-electric, factories, it all ran off a single power source. It was like a steam engine or a water wheel or something, and everything was fed off of it. And everyone would hook up their workstations to it, right? And when electricity was first rolled out, that's what they did. They replaced it with a single electrical thing in the middle of the floor. And it wasn't until basically the next generation of managers came up and they were like, well, this is dumb. Why don't we have an electrical post at every single station? And so I feel like I'm not saying we're all obsolete and nobody's going to figure it out until the next year. That is not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying this is a very compressed timeline version of something we've seen before. So I think there are two questions implied in the question that you asked, Sharon. One of them is, when does the exponential change level off of the underlying technology? And the other, which the only thing we know about exponential technological change is that it does come to an end. Like either it consumes all of the energy in the universe and crashes, or it does an S curve, right? And some people say that S curve actually leveled off 5 years ago as far as like frontier models went. Others say we're in the, like, I don't know, I'm not an expert, I have no opinion there. I think it's, but when you're on the inside of exponential change, it's dizzying and it's really hard to see it all depends on when it levels up or not. And then there's the different question, which I think is much more what we're facing today, which is like the python swallows a pig, and at what point in the digestion are we? I think we have all disruption, and we're just beginning to digest.
yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be a lot more coming, and we should hold on to our seats. All right, so in the previous like kind of discussion, you guys spoke about a little bit about trust, right? And you spoke about like kind of how you put your trust in these systems and the outcomes that can come from that. Not to throw any shade, but there have been some major incidents like the Replit deleting of the production database and other incidents on major systems. And I'm wondering, have you seen, first of all, any kind of or experienced firsthand in your own system some major issues that you're like, wow, or I wish that never reached production, or it did and you managed to say come back from that really quickly, or the other half of it is, have you seen that kind of like a major incident, and did you feel like the gains were worth, I guess, the fallout is the question. So a little bit on the kind of the trust and trusting these systems, and if you've seen them do anything majorly disappointing, and even if so, how did you react to that? I guess let's let Charity start this one.
I've never seen any AI-based technology make a single mistake.
It's so perfect. It's so perfect. You're absolutely right.
Nothing to add here. No, seriously. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
I'm waiting to
I feel like I've been taking up way too much airtime, so I want to go ahead give.
All right. Stefano, go for it. What have you been seeing in like major
So
enterprises?
I'm going to be honest with you. Within my team, we haven't had, thank goodness, I say out loud, a major incident. I'm terrible about saying, exactly. I was very terrified of saying this. We haven't seen it. So listen, we haven't given the AI full access to do a database deletion, right? So it's not going to get there yet. Maybe we'll get there. We will be in a very negative state if AI has full access to everything. It's interesting though. Remember who is in production right now? It's not the AI, it's the engineers, and they do fat finger things, and that happens. Okay. So we have to be pretty honest with ourselves of like whether it's AI or an engineer, incidents happen. I think the cool thing about it is that nothing is perfect, and we've actually proven that. Is it worth it? Let's talk about, is it worth it? Because you said, well, is it worth it? With all these major incidents, I think with the mean time to detect reducing and that troubleshooting capability, it is kind of worth it. I fully feel that if I didn't have AI as a tool right now, I'd have to, I'm not going to fix it with a ton of new engineers. I'm not. That's the challenge, right? I can add 20 staff and I'm still not going to fix it because Charity said it earlier. Who's the person you're going to call in? I'm going to call in that one engineer who's on vacation, probably in a remote location, to actually solve the problem, because the tribal knowledge is something that we haven't gotten out of our heads. So yeah, I think it's totally worth it. Thank goodness I haven't seen the major incidents yet, but they're definitely going to happen. But we have to consider they've happened before
When
at our own.
when failure happens constantly, it's boring. It's when failure is rare that it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
All right. Diaz, you want to add anything to that, or?
I think that like we didn't give also like AI like direct access to change everything, but I think that the amount of issues that we have did increase over the last, let's say, 6 months over the R&D. But it's like with some rate with more deploys. I think like if a year ago in Commodore we released something like 10 versions to production a day, let's say, like something like that, we are now closer to like 20, 30 like deploys a day. Obviously, as this happens, more things break. Almost all of our code is written by AI or using AI. So I think AI did cause some more issues. That being said, I think that the amount of time that we gain from this like MTTD and MTTR using AI is so much worth it that it's like it's no brainer. That the ratio makes sense for us at least. So we use it. I think when it comes to the tribal knowledge, one of the things that we're working very hard both in the product itself, but also as an R&D, is how can we bake as much as our tribal knowledge into skills and into Cloudia skills, in our case, which is Condor AI agent, in order to reduce the amount of of tribal knowledge that exists only in our head. I can give you an example. We had like a non-super urgent, but urgent enough issue a couple of days ago in Commodore. Like the demo environment where the SC is using to just like showcase use cases to our customer didn't work as expected. And the guy that solved the issue has like almost zero idea on the system, but we had a couple of very strong skills that allowed him to troubleshoot and to understand what was the problem, which was like something super small. So I think that like without it, I would need to call like the super expert in that specific domain. He was actually unavailable, like you already like pointed out when you need him,
The Phoenix
and like
Project.
the AI was able to solve it to the degree that like we were able to demo without any issues. So I think that how can we take the tribal knowledge from our head into machines is like one of the biggest challenges. And we've done a lot of research on that. But I'll be honest that I think it's also going to like diminish over time. Like I think 2 years from now, 3 years from now, most of this tribal knowledge is going to be like AI tribal knowledge. I don't know, like they are going to share it with themselves. And be, like I don't think that it will be inside our head for like a lot of time. Or
I
at
don't
least
know
I hope.
if you all saw, I pay a lot of attention to Intercom's engineering culture because I feel like they've consistently been like 6 to 9 months ahead of us, and they're just, I think, clear thinkers, and they're just great. And Dara, the CTO, 6 months ago, he wrote this blog post called 2X about how everyone's trying to double
Yeah.
their productivity. And he last week or the week before published a follow-up where he's
Yes.
like, well, we
I
made
saw
it.
that.
We actually 3X with
The 3X.
3 months
Yeah.
to spare. And the graph that jumped out at me, it's all great and everyone should read it. But and the reason I love it when people tell the whole story. Don't just tell the wins. It's a better story, and we need to hear that it wasn't all roses along the way, right? The graph that jumped out at me was the one that showed that quality or code quality or whatever, it dropped for about 18 months. And they just experienced their first ever 5-week contiguous, uh streak of, improvement, and it's starting to look like they're on the but like that's real, and I feel like we are deep in that right now, and I think a lot of other people are too.
Yeah. I think a lot are unrealistic about like kind of what the outcomes will be
Uh,
immediately. It's
And the
like
reason
any
they're
other.
unrealistic is because everybody's on X or on LinkedIn going, "We vibe coded the hardest part of our infra in 2 weeks. Perfect."
It's
And I'm
true.
just like,
uh,
"No, you didn't."
I think that like if you don't have an increase in your error rate
You
when
aren't
using
working
AI,
hard enough.
yeah, like you're not
You're
moving
not
fast
releasing
enough.
enough.
Like
Yep.
it's not possible. Again, like I think we're spending a lot of our time on like error detection and all of that, but we're moving so much faster. It's almost impossible
The
to keep up.
only way through it is through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through the flames. All right, I'm going to single each one of you out now for standalone questions. So, Charity, you're up first. From an observability angle, what do you think is changing the way we observe our systems in an age of AI? And are our current observability systems calibrated to properly handle the influx of AI-driven code, its potential failure modes, scale, the different requirements that LLM-driven systems require, et cetera, everything under the observability domain? Go for it.
My dearest hope is that AI will, and I think it will be, it's just a question of when, it will be the forcing function that will bring down that obnoxious, archaic barrier between developers and their code in production. Production is not what happens at the end of development. It is a stage of development. And in some ways, ushering your code into development, it's like the fourth the biologists say that like 3 months after the baby was born is like the fourth trimester because human babies are born too young because our heads are too big. And so it is it is a stage of development and you need to observe it. It's the only, and this becomes so much more true than ever because agents are non-deterministic. You can't, they're not replayable. The only way to know what they're going to do in production is to instrument them and observe them and then the right evals out to like test, it inverts the order that we've traditionally used. Most people are still They're just like, well, observability has 3 pillars. No, it doesn't. Pillars is a marketing term. And it's a marketing term that means I'm ripping up, I'm destroying, I'm permanently destroying the most valuable parts of my telemetry, the connective tissue, to store that in silos. It made sense for infrastructure because you probably can't change your infrastructure code. You just have to take whatever it sends you and store it in silos. You can and you should treat your instrumentation like a product decision, not like infrastructure, because it is, like I said earlier, AI is as good as the data it trains on, and it needs those relationships more than ever. Trace is a source of truth, wide structured events is a source of truth. Your data becomes not linearly more powerful the more context you have, but exponentially combinatorially more powerful the more you knit your context together. All the things we've been saying at Honeycomb for like 10 years now are like, oh, wow, I really need this. Yeah, you do.
Makes a lot of sense. Do you guys want to add on to that, or
I think you
should I
just
move?
took my whole job away because I run
Yeah.
infrastructure, but is it bad that I agree with you 150%? So I totally agree. It's funny, we talk about service ownership a lot at Salesforce, and moving from like, oh, SREs within Stefana's team over there owning the service ownership in production versus, and that's terrible, right? That's terrible. We broke that down. We absolutely broke that down and said, okay, now the engineers are fully enabled to see and observe their product in production so that they can resolve problems. If they need hands on and breaking glass, that's a different story. And we shouldn't be breaking glass, right? But I think that's the key. So it's okay that you took my job away. I'm
I'm
okay
not
with
trying to
it.
take your job. There's
Um,
great role for SRE and infra to play, but they can't own your code for you, you know?
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yep.
All right, Stefan, this one's for you. Tell
Uh-oh.
us a little bit about how the AI SRE race looks like, what it looks like from within a major enterprise like Salesforce, both on the engineering side and on the business side, like kind of both as consumers and as builders. Like I see that this is like a big thing, both wanting to use AI and also wanting to implement it, and how it's impacting, I guess, the production engineering side of stuff, the infrastructure side.
Yeah. So we are playing a dual role at Salesforce, right? We are builders, right? We're building Agentforce and Slackbot and so many other things. We're actually within my team building troubleshooting agents internally. It's really kind of cool because we are all enabled to do that work. At the same time, we're consumers, right? And that's my team. We're consumers of that tool, the tooling, and trying to figure out how, from an internal infrastructure perspective, we use this tooling in a safe way. So, from the builder perspective, let's talk about that. It's kind of a race against time. It's kind of scary, but it's unlike anything I have seen in my career. It's so fast that we have to build and rapidly move with the new LLM models, the new capabilities that are coming out. Our customers are seeing the potential, but I think they are kind of more hesitant to move forward as quickly as possible, right? So we're trying to show them the trust. We're showing them where the trust exists. We're giving them the guardrails that they can put in themselves to feel safe within this environment. So we're kind of running against an industry that's going fast, customers that are a little hesitant. It's a very weird model. It's definitely something I've never seen before in 26 years in this industry. Um, so on the other hand, like, so my team, this is more to the SRE and the DevOps side of things. We are actually focused on being firmly in the driver's seat. I look at that as a key thing. Accountability is the only thing we cannot automate. So ensuring that our teams are accountable for the code that goes out there, despite using all these amazing tools that are available to them. So I think that's a key thing that we constantly are sharing. There's also a weird thing happening where our product managers, our engineers, and our UX are becoming one, right? They are all building together at the same pace. It's changing the full SDLC. So I have you know, I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I think one more thing. It's completely different from what I said so far. One more thing that's actually plaguing us right now is the unit economics of SRE using tokens. So token efficiency is key. We can't take all the money out of the humans and throw it into the AI, right? That's just not the way we
Especially
need
since
to
it's
move.
so heavily subsidized already.
Yes, it's exactly that. It's one of the key things that we're trying is like, what is our reliability budget? What is our budget for token usage? How do we train our engineers to use it more efficiently? How do we train our AI agents to use it more efficiently? These are really cool problems to solve, and it's actually really an exciting time. So I hope I answered your question. I kind of went all over the
Yeah,
place, but
great question. Yeah,
we
good
are we
answer.
have so much going on at once. It's a very exciting time.
I love how many times you have said the word trust in this
Oh, I'm
session.
sorry. Maybe it's because it's my role.
No, it's perfect. I'm like, "I should have said that
It's
more," but
so
no, it's
important.
super trust and accountability, you're right, those can't be automated. I mean, you can help them be automated, but ultimately, someone's gotta be responsible and someone's gotta be accountable. There's no room for, "Oh, well, Claude said."
Claude said
Yeah,
it, so it must have happened in prod. Sorry,
definitely.
customer, our
We pay
SLA
you
was
a lot more
missed.
than we pay Claude.
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
true.
we were down for 3 hours because Claude. No, that's not
Doesn't
acceptable.
work.
It's not.
Yep. I'm going to give ETL this last one, then we'll wrap up with one last question. So, ETL, you've kind of partially answered this in some of your answers, but I want to dig in a little bit more. You've spent many years dealing with the reality of Kubernetes operations, where even before AI, things were really non deterministic and hard to reason about. Now, with AI coming into the mix, where are you seeing the most, I guess, initial value? You spoke about narrow use cases or very, explicitly scoped kind of scenarios. I'd like to hear a little bit more about where AI is helping, where maybe it might be amplifying complexity.
So just to rephrase what I said, I think the nerve scope is very good for self-healing. In general, I think AI should be the first responder to any incident and any issue that we have, and that is the way that we are building Commodore and Claudia. So I think that every time where you have an issue, where you have an incident, and a human is the first to respond, something need to change. Like again, like life is hard. We are already talked about it. Production is complicated. So if AI is not the first responder for any incident that you have, it makes sense. But the way that we're building Commodore is to imagine a world where we have those like three layers of like investigation, like detection of issues, right? Then investigation and taking remediation, both with the human in the loop or without human in the loop. So I think that we're still in the stage where most issues, most incidents are being triaged by human first and machine in second. What we're trying to build, like what I think is the next big hill basically for Commodore and for the industry, is moving towards an AI first mentality and system. And it will require us to rethink how we're doing detection and approvals and who owns this like mistake basically, right? Where it does take a bad decision. But the main thing that we're trying to focus right now is how can we broaden our offering and how can we give enough value so in every incident, in every issue, in every problem, and I will even say in every Slack question an ops developer or someone is asking the operation team, the first responder with not a shitty response, with something which is quite decent, will be the AI. And like I said, and I think everyone here said, it's very easy to get started. Like I can build a bot that respond to every Slack message like in I don't know, like in 10 minutes. Having it produce meaningful materials and meaningful answers is still much more complicated. But that's where I think most of the value is going to lie in like automating as much as we can from like the boring stuff and understanding where is the place of the DevOps and SRE in this new world where AI is first and like DevOps is second, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I actually have two great questions that I want to ask. I'm debating whether to ask both of them. Just limit the amount of folks that answer. I think we're going to do that just so that we can get both of them in. One of the things that you had brought up, Stefano, was about like kind of the token usage and kind of the budget management and all of that. And I recently saw a really funny tweet that was that said something to the effect of, now we're hiring juniors in order to do the like really menial kind of basic works that we don't have to waste tokens on it. And I feel like the world has come full circle because one of the major questions that keeps being asked is like, where's the on ramp for juniors now in an AI driven world? So just a really rapid like kind of what is your assessment on like how now junior DevOps AI junior SREs etc. can kind of enter the fold in an AI driven world?
I have always been focused on trying to enable juniors to get into the industry. I remember when I was in that space and I didn't have the support. I'm
Yeah.
150% there. I actually hired two folks from a boot camp about a year and a half ago, and can I tell you now they are the most productive, value driven productivity, not just productive, right? Folks on my team. The AI has enabled them to get up to speed more quickly. They do not need the senior engineer to solve problems on an incident. It has been tremendous. Can I shout out Daniel and Gabe from my boot camp? They're amazing.
Yes, you may.
But it's actually tremendous because even when I'm on an incident, maybe I'm playing incident commander, I can see how much they're enabled by using the tools that are at their disposal. Without that, they would need if the documentation isn't internal, they're going to need somebody to assist. It's also because we have documentation everywhere. We have Slack conversations, we have email conversations still. We have it everywhere. I really think with the ability to it's like democratizing the information, right?
Yeah,
So that these engineers can get up to speed more quickly. To be honest, they think differently too, right? So this is another thing I have to think differently after 26 years. I got to rethink how I'm going to face things. But these newer engineers are thinking differently. They grew up in the AI age and they're
yeah,
able to face a problem head on with confidence that we haven't seen before. So I feel this is a good thing for newer engineers. You're going to need them. They think
fantastic.
the
Yeah.
way we need them to think.
You make me feel old, but
Yeah.
other than
I
that, I totally agree.
So
I
100%.
keep quoting the 26 years because I just hit it just a week ago, so
Uh-huh.
it's a big deal.
All right, last question, and I'll let you each answer this very briefly. But I my experience in the industry right now is that a lot of organizations that are not yet on the AI bandwagon, they're really early in, are feeling a lot of FOMO. So if you could give like really a few practical tips of like what are the low risk, high gains places to get started with, and you mentioned some stuff at the beginning, Stefana, but like some of the few things that folks can get started with to feel like they can evaluate the benefits really really quickly, understand the benefits, and also without doing it at a high risk. So go for it, Charity.
Encode your wisdom into the system. Like, just start getting it out and in, and, like, it's very easy entry at this point, and I just wanna say something about junior engineers. The question has never been, in my opinion, whether or not there's value there. Obviously, there's value there. The question is whether or not people will hire them. So hire them. Give them a chance.
Yep. Stefanosov, fantastic gains from Daniel and Gabe.
Mhm.
Hire them. Go ahead, ETL. What are your practical tips for getting started? High gains,
Start
low risk.
small.
Hmm.
Yeah, start small and make sure that you understand what is happening. I think like that's the main thing that people are like, yeah, build me this huge app and do this huge refactor, and like they have no idea what's happening. So, it's like the good old days of development, understand what we are doing. I don't think it changed that dramatically. So start small, move.
I have
No?
one follow-up, which is get started now. These tools are hard to master,
Yeah.
but very easy to get started with. And you really want to enter while they're still easy to get started with. Like, every month that you wait, it's going to get harder, and you do not want to get started when everyone has already moved on and the barriers, like, think of cloud, it's easy in the early days. So start now. And if your employer
150%.
isn't on board, quit. Go find a job at a company that is, because every job opening right now says that they want you to
Are
be
you
an
an
expert in
agentic
this stuff.
engineer? Yeah,
Token
they're
maxing.
asking you to be an agentic engineer, right?
Yeah, they are. If you're
I
not
I
getting
think
at your current job.
150% on the get started now. You know what's interesting? Initially, I was starting with just like Gemini and helping me write things better, right? Trying to get my voice in there. I actually wrote my first Claude skill just a month ago, and I'm a VP.
Yes.
I'm not supposed to touch code, but I checked it in, and now
Mm.
everyone's using that skill, and it's pretty cool. I felt like an engineer again,
It's hard
and
to even
Uh-huh.
say where to start because there are so many ways. Just pick
yeah,
something.
Yeah.
Anything.
pick a problem that you're focused on. My first problem was doing. I know it sounds sad, but figuring out the cost of infrastructure and how that's going to scale over the next 6 months. I spent that time and I wrote a skill on that. And now everybody can use it when they're working on a new product or a new feature. It's amazing. I find that I'm so much more enabled now. So I think that folks should be less afraid and more like, hey, what can I do? What am I doing repeatedly today?
Curious. Mhm.
Exactly. Curious is the right word.
Yes, be infinitely curious, tinker, get started, get on board. Thank you all for this fantastic and enlightening panel. I think it was tremendous. I thought you brought you fantastic thoughts and insights. There's plenty more, so stay tuned in. And thanks for joining us at the AISRE Summit.